Good afternoon and welcome to EU Knowledge Valorisation Talk. My name is Anna Krzyżanowska. I'm the advisor for startups and scale-ups at the Commission, and I will be your moderator today. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to talk about how to make sure that brilliant, innovative ideas can turn into products, services, and solutions for people around us. Today, we are diving into a very hot topic, the topic of how to build and grow successful research-based startups and spin-offs. You know that startups are the backbone of innovation. They're also vital to economic growth. They're disruptive, not only productivity enhancing, but also disruptive solutions and innovations. And they have a great potential for driving productivity and creating jobs. However, as you may have heard from Letta and Draghi reports, many of our innovative companies in Europe still face challenges in assessing capital, using intellectual assets, having access to markets and infrastructures, and also in attracting and using the best talent. This is why I would like you to mark your calendars. On the 28th of May, the Commission will adopt the EU Startup and Scale-up Strategy to address these pressing needs and close the innovation gap between the EU and its global partners and competitors, obviously. It is our aim to create an environment that enables startups to thrive and scale here in Europe, as many of them today seek their growth opportunities outside of Europe. Research-driven spin-offs and startups take center stage in these efforts, and they are crucial for knowledge valorization as they offer researchers and students an entrepreneurial route to success when they commercialize their results and innovations. How can we encourage them to embark on that path? How can we support them to use intellectual assets generated at universities and research organizations as a basis of successful company? These are the questions we're going to be tackling today. To do so, we have invited 3 experienced professionals working as intermediaries and providing support to services and structures that are needed for a conducive innovation ecosystem. Welcome, therefore. I would like to introduce you to Lotta Partanen, Esteban Pelayo, and Klaas Hermdamt. Welcome. They will share with us how research-based startups and spin-offs are supported in their own organizations and how researchers and early-stage entrepreneurs can benefit from the programs and services offered by the public sector. Together, they'll explore challenges and practical steps for research-driven startups to thrive. Before I give the floor to our experts, I would like you to go already to our Slido site, enter the hashtag EU Valorisation Talk, and send your questions for the upcoming question and answer session. Without further ado, let me kick off the discussion and introduce our first speaker. Lotta Partanen is Head of Incubation and Acceleration at VTT Technical Center of Finland. She leads the science-based spin-off incubator, VTT Launchpad. We know that VTT has gathered a lot of experience in spin-offs. They were created through the Launchpad incubator. Can you share your success factors and what you have learned from that experience?
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. So VTT was founded in 1942 as a technical research center, and is today one of the leading European research centers. So actually, in essence, we have been spinning off companies for decades. And for the past 20 years, perhaps more systematically. And VTT Launchpad was an effort to renew and bring it to a next level. So it was founded 6 years ago, and that's when I joined VTT to set it up. So we can look at it like more historically, from the past 20 years, some 50 or so spin-off companies from VTT. Some naturally have already ceased to exist and others are thriving. And in the 6 years now, we have created 13 spin-off companies. And basically why we do this is that as a state-owned technology research organization, VTT's task is to create an impact of change in society. So what we do is actually we collaborate a lot with industry and transfer technology to industry to help industry renew. However, the second greatest way of creating that impact of renewal is by creating spin-off companies. And there then we need to really aim for quality in order to create that impact. So what we measure actually are our success against, when we report our success to our owners annually, we look at the amount of venture capital and other equity that our spin-off companies have been able to raise in the reporting year. And that, and we don't have any other measures for kind of numbers of spin-offs because the equity raised actually is a nice proxy for deep tech startups, let's say, capability of succeeding at what they're doing. So actually on a 5-year average, it was about 10% of all funding raised by Finnish startups. And actually last year was quite an anomaly. It looks like actually 19% of all startup funding going to Finnish startups was raised by VTT spin-offs. Yes, that's quite impressive. So if we go to the next slide, there are certain clear principles that guide our way of creating spin-off companies. So I've summarized it to 5 principles of spin-off creation. And the first and foremost is that we need to aim for a global impact in order to really, as a research organization, to really create that impact of change, it needs to aim for the global scale. And that's where we need to make the strategic assessment of whether we aim for that industry partnership and collaboration with existing partners, existing companies, or do we see the greater impact being created by the vehicle of a new company, a growth company? And when we select the growth company path, the startup spin-off path, then we really need to steer in the incubation, we need to steer for that global impact. So we need to get the teams to really think big and plan accordingly. Now, then we need to, as the third principle, we need to assist the teams, that are typically composed of VTT-based researchers to aim to avoid waste. And that's really crucial because actually as a startup entrepreneur, the most scarce resource is in fact time, because anyone else can go past you and get into the market first. So actually they need to really be very rigorous in evaluating what should they be doing first before they do anything else. And then we also as an incubator, we need to avoid waste also. So we're not allowed to waste their time. So we need to communicate with real clarity. And then finally, the technology transfer terms need to be such that we can create that global impact. So finally, I think, that on the last slide, I just wanted to bring together that I think one of the key success factors is that we have our own funding in the incubator. We can make use of research to business funding from Business Finland or the European Innovation Council. However, the fact that we can fund the teams in a very kind of quick sprints is one of those ways that we can accelerate the way to market.
Well, thank you very much for that. These are incredibly important aspects, not only that our greatest resource these days is time and attention, but also that we need to find objective measures for our success. And I think that the amount of funds that you're raising is actually quite impressive. Which is a nice way to move to our next speaker, Esteban Pelayo, who is the manager of Parque Científico de Alicante, which assists more than 50 companies on that journey. So my first question to you is, how does the Alicante Science Park support startups into turning these ideas into marketable solutions? And how does it address societal needs?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for allowing me to present our experience. The answer in short is that we go beyond the creation of the startup. We go beyond the establishment. So we don't only in the university support the motivation of researchers and students to create a company with acceleration programs, but in the science part, where we are specialized is what happens after the company is created. And for that purpose, it was established, the science part, in 2010. Service space for us is another service, but we are mainly focused on giving them expert advice in many aspects that a company in this moment needs. And we have been successful. As you said, we have over 50 companies, while coming from the university community, we have only 18 in this moment. So almost 30% are from the university and 70%. And it is because we have a specialized environment and tailored service for these types of companies that are welcome for all the innovators in the province that allow us to be a leading hub of innovation in the territory. And Alicante is the fourth biggest province in Spain. We have over 2 million of inhabitants, and it's more and more important to have a province with this type of scale-up that will bring productivity and increase of the value added in the traditional industry that we already have. If you pass the slide, I will tell you how we do in practice. The first thing when you create a company, what you need is resources and money, and that's why we do. We try to help them to get grants from the national government and to find investors, and for that we have a complete set of proposals in order to achieve and to help them to get this type of resources. But as well, we help them to commercialize the product. The main challenge on these companies is to pass from grams to several kilos, and for several kilos to hundreds of kilos. And for that, they need customers that are as innovative as those companies. And we have a communication program where we present these companies to the social media, to the general society, as well to potential clients that they will need. And we as well do other services that we have because we are in the university community. We have a talent attraction. Normally the companies don't focus on one technology, but they are complementary technologies that could help them to achieve results or to continually support with the university knowledge in order to have transfer of additional innovation that will help them. This is more or less the recipe that we have in Alicante to be one of the leading and more internationalized science park in my country, is to be focused in what is happening after the company is created.
You know, the science parks are examples of place-based support to startups, and it's interesting for you to say that the birth of the company is definitely not enough. They need support in their formation stage. And by bringing all these people together, you're really enabling both economic and societal value for those companies. Last but not least, Klaas Hemdamt, Program Director of Humanities Venture Lab at the University of Amsterdam. We can say that creating a spin-off which has products or service which is very tangible is easier than doing it in the area of humanities and social sciences. So what are these challenges? How do you tailor your support to such for researchers to launch humanities ventures and develop sustainable impact?
Thank you, Anna, for having me and for this question. I think I'm here also to tell about how entrepreneurship within the humanities and also social science and arts is I think an important part of innovation. In the University of Amsterdam, we have the Humanities Venture Lab. We also provide services like spaces, offices for events. But we give also trainings and coaching and matchmaking with important stakeholders. Next slide, please. It is our aim to be home to all humanities-minded entrepreneurs in the University of Amsterdam community. We have, I would say, around 200 entrepreneurs at the moment, and they have a background in philosophy, media, journalism, history, so all the aspects, let's say, of the humanities. And also to a certain extent within social science. And like I said, yeah, we support from the initiation, and getting people, students and researchers ready to embark on an entrepreneurial journey. It is not a very common thing, so we have to start really at the beginning, providing interesting, challenging workshops and trainings, and working more and more with the educational programs. And once they are feeling that there could be an interesting idea or opportunity for them, then they can get into the program of really starting a venture and building on that, connecting to others and get into the entrepreneurial journey from within the humanities. If we see, this is part of a trend that we see wider in Europe, and we call it SHAPE. SHAPE as we have STEM, of course, it's all familiar. SHAPE is social science, humanities, arts for people and environment. And more and more networks are coming up in Europe where universities are giving more focus to SHAPE ventures. And I think it is important because SHAPE ventures also drive a balanced both societal and economic growth from the research that's being done within SHAPE. And the nice thing is that it creates new jobs and career opportunities, and they are often embedded in local and national structures. So you see the scaling up is usually done more through developing new methodologies, of course often supported by technologies that are enabling. And also from an economic perspective, I think the SHAPE ventures are important because it requires relatively low investment, and it is a much more reduced risk, and at the same time they can reach a high impact for a sustainable development where people are living in comfortable, equitable societies. Next slide, please. So if you are interested in learning about examples of the entrepreneurs and their stories, or if you want to somehow get more information, please let's connect.
That is very interesting. It is true that we much more often talk about STEM than SHAPE, and perhaps in the speed of change that we observe in our society today, the SHAPE entrepreneurs are as important as STEM entrepreneurs in making sure that innovation is not only effective or profitable, but also agreeable and valuable to society. So I'm really impressed with that. Many thanks, class. Okay, now that you've had a chance to warm up with some introductory questions, let's take a deeper dive into the world of startups and spin-off creation. So Lotte, gaining ownership or access to IP rights is key to the success of research-based startups. On the other hand, publicly funded research organizations might have an interest in maintaining control over IP. So to fully leverage valorization opportunities and to secure a revenue stream, that situation creates a little conflict. How do you strike a balance between these different priorities? Is there a win-win scenario that you could share with us?
Well, I do believe that there is an opportunity for a win-win scenario. When we have made that strategic choice that a particular technology for a particular application area should become a spin-off company, then our first bet is really to put our greatest effort in developing that. And so from that point onwards, actually, while it's still in incubation, it's just a project at VTT, and we have a project team. So it's not a company yet, or a legal entity in itself. But as our first choice, we really truly want to believe and support for it to become a well-funded company. So we approach it actually from that point onwards with the mindset of a venture capitalist. Mm-hmm. And then, when it comes to that point that the team has convinced the investors and they get a favorable term sheet, that's when they actually found the company. And when they found the company and the investors come in with the capital investment, we join in alongside with the investors at equal terms and make an investment in kind. We invest the technology into that new co. And we become a shareholder with priority shares just like the venture capitalist. So our aim at that point is to create such a wonderful foundation for a growth company that it will be able to secure the funding on the next rounds also if it achieves its goals.
Well, that's a nice way of negotiating a win-win, that the win-win is not a static point, but really a dynamic one you arrived at. That's very interesting, really. So let me turn to class. Learning from peers and sharing experiences and networking are part of the entrepreneurial journey. What else is needed to inspire and incentivize researchers to really embark on this entrepreneurial journey, which is risky, which is atypical, which is not a 9-to-5 job?
Yes, very true. I think for all disciplines, starting an entrepreneurial journey to start a company, it is a difficult thing for researchers, and they're not. Mm-hmm. If they're not, intrinsically motivated, then it's difficult to challenge them to start doing that. For shape researchers in particular, I think it is important to have a different set of narratives also. That is not. I see that often they're not so much motivated by growth and world domination type of narrative that we all know. But if you start talking about and showing other examples that how much impact you can have by starting something that is more sustainable, that is beyond your own goals and your own ambitions, then that helps them. And for that, I think it is also important to have really specialized expertise also in the knowledge transfer offices, the intermediaries and the infrastructure to help them on that journey.
So it's not only inspire and incentivize, it is also to give them a sense of security. What do you think? Is that element important in your daily work with entrepreneurs?
Yes, at the end you transmit trust among the different actors that needs to be mobilized in order to support a company. And I think this is the role of us, of the intermediaries, to connect the needs of the entrepreneur with the providers and bringing them advice and trust in order to help them to move faster, not to test and try and to fail. This is quite important from our side.
Okay, so the inspiration by support, do you share that view?
Yes. Of course, that's one part of it, and then we built structures that kind of, let's say, that sort of fallback mechanisms that researchers can also, because they're actually employed at VTT, and they aim to kind of embark on that startup journey, so they can apply for leave of absence up to 2 years. So, if they didn't kind of succeed, they can return back to VTT and continue working as a researcher, should they opt for that.
Okay, so flexibility is also part of the package.
Yes.
And I recall from your first intervention, then there's also a discipline of not wasting time,
Yes.
which I think we found a lot of elements to make sure that this transfer is successful. So let me ask the question to you, Esteban. The Alicante Science Park is part of the European research project Co-Value. This is dedicated to engaging citizens in knowledge valorization. Why do you think this is important? What are the benefits of involving citizens in this process of spin-off creation?
For us, the project has been very important. In fact, I think it's a game changer. Because before we were like the triple helix. We were working together, academia with companies, and supported this interaction with administration smoothly, as I presented. But the fact to include the citizens and the civil society in the startup creation, I think is going to change a lot the startups in our ecosystem. And there are two main reasons why the companies can use a lot this thing. The first one is in order to see complementary activities on their innovation. Normally our companies or startup companies are B2B. They work with other companies. For example, we have a company we have a company, the water utility company, that measures 4 times per hour the water consumption in every house in Alicante. An alternative solution or a new product could be to discover if there is no water consumption between 5 o'clock in the morning till midday, maybe there is a problem in the house, especially if I have my parents alone. And maybe we could do this type of things. We have as well companies working in recycling. Recycling is not always perfect, and sometimes can collect different issues, and the opinions of the people could be different about recycling. Or we could use renewable materials to produce plastic. We can have another use. This is as well important, not just to find new products for the current process, but as well to avoid problems about the perception of the civil society. Nowadays, for example, with the data that we use, we have companies that are developing platforms for intensive agriculture to monitor everything in the territory. So you will have a drone or something in the top of your head during a lot of time and could have concerns on your privacy. So this is important to have the social point of view of every innovation, and we have very good examples in the past when everything was rejected because of that.
Indeed.
And for us as a science park is crucial because we are having a very good connection with the public authorities, with the municipalities, with the NGOs that we didn't have, and we are connecting our university more with the territory through them.
Well, that's interesting. So it's not only the new opportunities may arise, but also you reduce the fear and therefore the resistance to innovation. That is very, very interesting. We will go to questions through Slido in a moment, but I would like to ask one short question, a 1-minute question to each and every one of you. What are the key factors in positioning academic spin-offs and startups to attract future funding and investment for scaling up? Shall we start with you, Lotte?
This is something that we talk a lot about because, you know, it's one of our key success factors. So really, I would say, you know, that you need to have a very kind of, you know, as an academic institution or as a research organization, you know, you need to have that sort of mindset that you want to create the great companies, the spin-off companies, and then you need to act accordingly. So that the investors can also trust your spin-offs to get fair deals on technology transfer and, you know, something that they have a great foundation for future funding rounds.
Thank you. Stefan?
We take innovation for granted, so should be something new, and we have that. So this is not normally it's a criteria for investors to have a unique position, but in our case, that is for granted. I think very important is the people. Even if we are talking about professor, at the end the investor gives money to them and has to have a trust in them because they are going to do something with their money and with the resources. So you have to see, or the investor has to see the motivation and what is going to be done with the company in the future. And the second thing that they should see is scalability. In many cases, when we are speaking about research, we tend to have entrepreneurial initiatives that are connected with the work that is done in the university to provide services, but not to have a bigger company that could scale up. And this is something that is quite relevant as well, and that we will advise.
That's indeed our European worry number one, how to make sure that these brilliant companies actually scale. They replicate their innovation in all member states, or they grow into big European companies that compete globally. So that's indeed a very important point to which the money is the necessary element. And for you?
Yes, I think going back to SHAPE, to the SHAPE models, we have seen that for STEM, the models how to proceed from startup to scale up is quite well developed. There needs, of course, a lot of attention still, but for SHAPE, I think somewhat different models need to be developed. And what type of organizations, what type of, you often see more blended finance strategies with public investment and private investment. And this is not very well known to all universities, how to approach these type of spin-offs. And I think if we get that in order, where impact investment is also much more involved, then I think that would help a lot the researcher that I represent here.
Well, definitely more programs like this to make sure that our investors also finance the SHAPE entrepreneurs. Many thanks for these very interesting insights. They really are very interesting to me. They are very interesting in the context of the work we're doing in the startup and scale-up strategy. But now our audience has been waiting patiently to get their questions answered. For those of you who haven't yet had the chance to do so, please go to Slido, use the hashtag #EUValorizationTalk, and there's still an opportunity to ask questions to our speakers. So let me start first. A question to all of you. Imagine that there is a researcher with an entrepreneurial idea that does not find support in their own environment, in the structure at their own universities or organizations. What would be your word of advice for such a person?
I will answer first, if you allow me. There is a lot of support available. If you don't have in your organization, they are elsewhere, even at the national level or European level. So I will advise to find alternative ways and take time on that, because it will be easy to find. even if you have a support in your own organization, you should find other ways to get your entrepreneurial project to be supported. You, as a researcher, you need all the support. You are like a young baby and you need a lot of people to take care of you. And the more specialized, the better. So, for example, going to what we have in the University of Amsterdam, if you have a place where the people are used to connect with your ideas because it's in the field or in the territory or in the economy on the sector that you are working with, the better.
Look for it and persist.
Yeah.
That's the word. Would you like to add to that?
I don't have anything more to add.
Yeah, I think you were very explicit. So don't get discouraged. There's plenty of help. It is true, we were discussing it before this program, that we went from relatively limited support to a lot of support in a short period of time. So you're spoiled for choice, and I think that more can be found online and through networks of universities and to networks of the European Commission as well. The question to class: could you give an example of a successful humanities venture with societal and economic impact?
Of course, there are many actually. One that comes in mind is a researcher who studied museology, and she has started a company to support heritage institutions to become more sustainable. Often they have old buildings, they have very delicate collections, and they need a lot of actually support how to collect them and to keep them in a much more sustainable way. So the energy systems, how to work with the chemistry that is also needed for all those preservations, and she is offering trainings and consultancy services to the museums.
Okay, well, that's a nice one. Another question, the question about timing, right? We have these stories about entrepreneurs in the garage and they are hardly 15. For the researchers who decide to embark on the entrepreneurial journey, what's the right time? What's the right moment? What would be your tips or milestones that you would give to people who are reflecting on that switch? Lotte?
You know, I would really encourage them to first look at the uniqueness of the proposition and the market opportunity there, and is the market opportunity, you know, large enough and something that can scale, so that, you know, and then, you know, find out who are the first customers that you could really bring the solution to market with. You know, who are your key partners there. And based on this, you could build that growth story, you know, create that business plan, and then get the right investors on board. And then talk to a lot of investors and find the ones that are really spot on who can help you with that. So I think here, and then, you know, then of course, get that team together, you know, and make sure that you have the most brilliant team that you know you can kind of go through thick and thin, because, you know, you'll be in a tougher, closer relationship than with your spouse.
Well, that's very true. Entrepreneurs spend a lot of time together. That's interesting. Do you have anything that you would like to add to that advice?
Yeah, I would say the same thing, but I would start with the team. You know, if you have the feeling that you have someone around you as a researcher to really trust to take on that journey, then that is the right time to do it, and then the rest will fall. Especially also because many researchers don't want to give up completely their academic career, and then if you're able to form a team, that is maybe the crucial milestone.
I would add to create a company only when you are going to have economic activity. I mean, when you are going to invoice your customers, or you are going to have an investor. Before, it's better to stay in the research center, scaling up the technology, making all the tests, making all the things in order to guarantee the success.
Yes, indeed. So make friends and think about where your money is going to come from, right? That's really interesting. We have had time for perhaps one more question. How would you promote the collaboration between startups and established companies? And perhaps very quickly, first Esteban and then Lotta.
For us, if it is possible, we try to convince the companies to be part of the team that we have said before, because you need to have a smart money, and it's better to have the team in the very beginning before starting the company in order to develop the product. But as well later, we try to mix. There are a lot of open innovation big companies that are willing to have innovative ideas, and we exploit them as much as possible.
Great.
We realize that it's one of those crucial cornerstones of actually creating a spin-off company from VTT, because they're all in business-to-business markets. So basically, you will not be able to secure funding unless you already have a clear understanding of who you're going to be collaborating when you spin off. And very often that entails like letters of intent or similar, already as part of your deck when you're looking for funding.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I think we'll stop here because time is ticking away. Many thanks to the participants online for these good questions and for sharing your views and advice with us. So I'm going to ask you before we close to give just one final message and keep it very short.
I think it was a very interesting discussion. I think what we see in the world and here in Europe is we have a lot of challenges, and we have to go through big transitions. And luckily, we have wonderful brains in Europe, and those are the researchers. I think it's important to really get into the innovation, not to forget one part of our brain. So we have the stem part and the shape part of the brain, and we need both of them.
From my side, I think the first thing I wanted to say at the end is that it is important to take care of the companies after they have been created, because they are still weak. And one of the key elements that could be is to engage them with civil society. I think one of the competitive advantages that we have in Europe could be the strength of the civil society, and we have to mobilize that in ways. I don't have the solutions. Probably your project and many other activities are the solution for that. But it's useful to mobilize the part of the society that we never considered at the beginning. And infrastructure and policies to do that, I think, will reinforce us as a society.
Right. Lotta?
Perhaps to, recap a little bit, I chime that across Europe we really need a lot of kind of renewal of industry, new companies. And a lot of them could come from research-based kind of background. And as research institutions and academic institutions, I truly believe we should really aim to create that impact of renewal and then have our practices aligned so that we can create fantastic growth companies.
That is really very, very valuable, what you're saying. I think that there is, in knowledge valorization and this journey from ideas and into the markets, products, services and solutions, an incredible value for the society, and perhaps a new dawn for us to build economic power and the societal well-being all at the same time. So, dear audience, thank you very much for joining the Knowledge Valorization Talk today. I hope it provided you with stimulated thoughts and you spend the rest of the afternoon discussing it. If you would like to share your opinion or experience on the topic of startups and scale-ups and spin-offs, take a minute to reply to our feedback survey that allows us to improve our talks and to improve our work here at the Commission. This is available at the events page of this talk. Finally, stay tuned for updates of our next episode of the Knowledge Valorization Talks series, which will take place on the 17th of June. Mark your calendars for the 17th of June, but obviously we live in a digital world. You can look at those episodes whenever you would like to and share them with your friends. It was a great pleasure to moderate this talk today. Thank you to the speakers, and I wish you a good afternoon.